I just can't help but do a little Cabbage Patch to the song,
I was dancing. I thought, when the music stopped, but I would have kept going with you.
You know, maybe that's a national story too. Like,
Right.
okay. Hello, guys. Yo, and hello. We are Mike and Danny, and we are Hobby Think Tank tonight. We are your two guys that are going to help you guys think more about sports cards, all those funny things that we want this to be a group effort. So we're going to come up with some things tonight. We'd love to hear comments down below, what you guys think about what we present, other ideas that you might have. That's what a think tank does. It gets together, and that's what we're going to do. But it's just you and me talking right now, Danny. So how are you tonight?
Good. And I noticed that neither one of us is afraid to be a homer.
No, I'm totally a homer and proud of it.
Yes.
Zero embarrassment there whatsoever. And both our teams are doing well.
Yeah, no, I think I don't want to jinx it. I don't talk during a no hitter.
There you go. Is there a no hitter going for you guys right now?
The entire season.
Oh, gotcha. You're looking at that as the no hitter. I hear you. Well, we are going to talk about a topic tonight that is interesting. We were talking off air, and we mentioned some things, and it got me thinking, and we should do a hobby think tank on this. All the time I hear people talking about records that will never be broken in Major League Baseball. The Joe DiMaggio hitting streak, the Nolan Ryan career strikeouts. We could name a dozen records that most people reasonably think will never be broken. And is that going to annoy you, by the way, the whole time we're talking?
I was okay with it until you pointed it out.
Now you're just going to be going.
Now, if you see me swaying, you'll know why.
All right, let's.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. I'll at least make it a dull sway. Okay. It's hot here in Texas, man. I need a fan. It's hot already. Okay, so if we think about records that'll never be broken, that's an easy thing to discuss. What I think is harder maybe to discuss, records that could be broken. Not only could be, but most likely will be. What do you think about this topic?
I don't like to give compliments, but I really like this topic.
It's not something I've ever thought about before, honestly.
So my son Connor. I was at dinner with Connor and his twin brother Zach, and I mentioned that we would be talking about this topic, and both of them, their faces lit up. They're like, "That is so cool!"
Wow.
And I was like, "It is cool. Nobody ever talks about that." So we have 12-year-old, validation. So I'm ready to rock.
Then that completely makes this topic legit.
Right. So,
wow. Tell Connor, did you tell him that I came up with the idea?
No. I took full credit for
it. Fair enough.
That's how you parent. That's the secret to parenting.
All good ideas are yours. All bad ideas are someone else's.
Yes.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Okay, I'm going to let you go first with a record that you think will likely, possibly, maybe get broken at some point.
I'm going to give the very, very loose parameters that we agreed to operate under. They're baseball records. And there needs to be some sort of significance. It can't just be best batting average on Tuesday afternoons.
I did. That was one I was going to choose. And when you told me that earlier, I was very disappointed.
Well, that's why I knew I had to bring it up. I knew where you were headed. So
but only in day games, like when it's under 80 degrees,
with the roof closed.
Right.
So with that in mind, I really tried to go after some big ones.
Okay.
And I'm going to start off with kind of a monster here. I think Ricky Henderson's all-time single-season stolen base record is ripe for the picking.
So, first of all, it's hard to say all-time in single season.
Okay. Single-season all-time record.
Okay. 130, I think, in 1981 or 82.
82.
think it was 82. Okay.
82.
Because I remember that because he has an 83 Topps card with that record
Yes.
showing him breaking that record. Okay. I should have known that right off.
And can I give my logic behind this?
I want to hear logic on all of them.
Well, I don't have a lot of logic in general, so bear with me on what I have.
Do your best.
Okay, so since Maury Wills in 62 put up 104 stolen bases, there have been 6 separate seasons within 20% of Henderson's record.
Okay.
So that's almost one a decade within 20% of his record. With the new rules, I think that whether it's somebody who is currently playing or somebody who's going to come into the league within the next decade or two, somebody's going to take a real run at that record.
Yeah. I mean, I was a baseball fan in 1982 and remember Ricky just running all over, and it was so cool. And then came Vince Coleman, right? And a lot of people thought Vince Coleman could be the guy to break that single season record. I think he did break 100 at one point.
He had 3 of the seasons that were within 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. But yeah, that feels like an out there record. But as you said, with the rule changes, the bigger bases, only being able to throw over a couple of times, that whole dynamic, I think players are going to get smarter at taking advantage of that.
Yep.
Right. It's the first year. So it's kind of, yes, there are more stolen bases currently, but not extraordinarily more. But as these rules get more accustomed to in baseball, you might see guys trying to steal and swipe a base more often, right?
That my theory is that the step off is going to end up being an offensive advantage.
Okay.
Is that, once you can time a pitcher and that they have to get you out, I think the attempts go up. And then once the attempts go up, the record becomes in jeopardy.
Okay. So that's probably not this year, 2023.
No, but I think it'll happen.
Okay. I like it.
Do you?
That would be a big deal, by the way, I think.
I think it would be.
I really do. The stolen base has gotten so minimalized in the game because of sabermetrics, right? Sabermetrics says never try to steal a base because the out is more important than the 90 feet, right?
Well, the percentage, I think it was a 75% break even number for the threshold on the old bases, and I have not heard if there's enough sample size yet to readjust that, or if there is a readjustment.
Okay, so if you're if you can steal the base 80% of the time, it's worth you trying. You're saying?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, it's cool that we have those advanced metrics. I actually think it adds a lot to the game if you take them in context with everything else. You can mix traditional thoughts about the game and new thoughts about the game.
Yep.
And I like that.
And I like that we're talking about the stolen base.
Exactly. I think it's a valuable weapon for the right team with the right, again, you got to pick your spots, but to steal, think about this though. I mean, 162 games in a season, 130 stolen bases, it means you got to be a really good offensive player because you have to get on base a lot.
Absolutely. But that's part of actually the reason that I think it could happen is the game is going that way. When a lot of these other guys did it, on base percentage was not a statistic that they focused on.
Right.
So Henderson had 170 some attempts that year. I mean, he happened to have a high on base percentage, but that wasn't even a focus for a lot of teams. And I think you have more players focusing on it. You might have more guys trying the stolen base record. That's part of the logic.
So going with that, thinking of new rules, can I go with my first one?
Go, please.
This is kind of not within the parameters that we talked about, but hopefully you'll accept it as a reasonable one because we're each going to do 3. And my first one is, given the new rules, given the lack of shift, I think we're going to see a player hit 400.
400 or 407?
I think 400 is enough to be
Okay.
significant. Now, that's not a record, but I'm thinking more milestone, and I get that. But I do understand I'm stretching our parameters. But I think hitting 400 is a significant baseball accomplishment. And again, no one's done it since 1941. So I don't think hitting 407 matters as much as if you hit 399.99, that's a big deal. And we've had a couple of guys get close. I remember, the 94 strike season when Gwynn was, I think, hitting 394, as a matter of fact, or something similar to that. When the
George Brett put a huge run.
Brett 390. Carew was close a couple of times. He went kind of deep into the season, still hitting 400. And we see what Luis Arias is doing this year as a, wow, like, this is possible. You get the right kind of hitter in the right kind of ballpark. I think in the next 10 years, we're going to have somebody hit 400, and it'll be a big deal in baseball.
What if he could steal bases and solve both of our records?
Ooh.
See what I'm saying?
With the same
type of player. But I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. It would have to be like an Ichiro type. Like, if Ichiro had the rules now.
Oh, can you imagine?
How many stolen bases would he have? Yeah, but you have to have a dynamic player like that. And
yes.
I have to admit, I'm surprised at what Arias is doing. He had a good season last year, and I remember when his rookie cards were very sought after. 2019 tops, maybe 2020 tops.
Yeah, with the Twins.
Yeah, with the Twins, exactly. So I think a player is going to hit 400 with the new rules.
Nice call.
Thank you.
I do think if somebody hits 407, even though it's 7 points, it is more significant just on baseball liking certain numbers.
Yeah, it would be beating a legend, and that always matters.
Yeah, but okay, my number 2.
Go.
Breaking Oral Hershiser's consecutive scoreless innings pitched record.
59 and a half?
59
or 59 and a third. You can't pitch a half inning, so I better 59.
Yeah.
Is it 59 straight up?
It's 59 even is what I saw, but maybe I'm wrong. And that was 1988.
I remember that was a big deal.
I think the amount of no-hitters that are pitched every year continues to seem to climb. I mean, Zach Greinke, as recently as 2015, put together 45 2/3. So, I think it's something that's obtainable. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think the couple top 15 or 20 pitchers, any one of them can go on a run right now and dominate for that many starts. So I think that's a record that could definitely come down. Not easily.
Yeah.
But it would be a big one.
Nate Eovaldi for the Rangers put together this season. It just got broken up against the Rays over the weekend, but it was 20-something straight. And that's, he's not like a guy you go, yeah, that makes sense. So I think also because of the way pitching is handled by teams nowadays, a guy goes 5 innings, 6 innings, throwing a shutout. They don't have a problem pulling him anymore. They used, that used to be kind of very sacrilegious. The guy's throwing a gem. Why are you pulling him? And then in the late innings, he gets a little fatigued, or the third time through the lineup kind of stuff, and hitters start figuring it out. And not that he's going to allow a baker's dozen worth of runs, but he might allow 1 or 2, which would break that streak. I think it leans more towards, that happening because of the way they coddle these pitchers.
Excellent point. Thank you for making it for me.
You're welcome. What else you got for that?
That was my second one.
Okay.
And I'll give a shout out real quick to Bob Gibson, Don Drysdale, who were both ahead of Greinke and just behind Oral Hershiser, just in '68.
So I think my second one is I think we're going to see a record broken that's interesting. Home runs by a pitcher.
Okay.
And you're like, wait a second, Mike, pitchers don't hit anymore. There's a DH. But we have one guy named Shohei Ohtani who happens to do both very well, pitch and hit. And so I would hope that Major League Baseball, this is kind of a gray area that I don't know how they would handle this, but I think the record's held by Don Drysdale, as a matter of fact. I actually didn't do my pre-episode research, so I will Google that. Why don't you comment quickly on what you think about that idea?
Well, I like that idea of a record because Dave McNally homered for the Orioles as a pitcher in the World Series, and the idea of pitchers homering has always entertained me. But I think that Shohei is not going to be the last two-way player. I think he's going to be the start of another generation of guys that are be open to that. So I think whether it's Shohei or somebody else, I think it's more likely now with the new DH rules and the idea that you can pull a pitcher and keep him in the game is interesting.
Right.
And
so the Major League record is Wes Ferrell for his career. He hit 37 home runs as a pitcher. And Bob Lemon and Warren Spahn are tied for second. I didn't know Warren Spahn was second all time in home runs for a pitcher, 35.
Wow.
That's interesting. Wes Ferrell, brother of Hall of Famer Rick Ferrell.
Yep.
And I just hope if Ohtani, you can only count home runs for Ohtani on days that he pitches, right? To me, that's the crux of this record.
Well, and you have to count while he's in the game as a pitcher, not when he gets moved back to DH.
Okay, so if he pitches 6 innings and he hits one in the 8th, that doesn't count.
That would be my interpretation. Do you disagree?
I don't know. I don't know that I even have an opinion on it. I think if he's I think if he pitches that day, that game should count. Now, if there's, I should say in that game, because if there's a doubleheader that day and he pitches in game 1 and DHs in game 2 and hits 3 bombs, those don't count. So I should say in the any game that he pitches, any home runs he hits, regardless if he's still considered the pitcher of record or not even of record, pitcher in the game, then they should count. But I wouldn't be shocked if they said, well, he was technically the DH in the 8th inning when he hit that home run. So that would be interesting to know. But I definitely think he's going to hit more than 37 home runs in games on days that he pitches.
Oh, I mean, he's going to break that record within a couple of years.
Right.
But I think that somebody could break his record one day.
A guy doing the same thing?
Because they've changed the rules. And like you said, guys are coddled now, so it might be easier to have two-way players.
Yeah, I think Ohtani is a rare talent, but he's still at least paved the way for that to be possible.
Sure.
And maybe more kids that are being developed now are like, look, we know plenty of major leaguer stories that they were great pitchers, but they got moved to the outfield because they could hit better than they could pitch, but they were good pitchers. Or I'm immediately coming to mind is Rick Ankiel or somebody like that.
Yep.
Who was actually a better outfielder than he ever was a pitcher, but just, I don't know. I think it paves the way and people going, well, you don't have to choose anymore. You can be Shohei,
Nick Markakis for the Orioles famously was a two-way JUCO player, and every other team was going to take him as a pitcher, and the Orioles took him as an outfielder.
There you go.
And he pitched for Team Greece in the Olympics, even while he was playing outfield in the majors.
Huh.
So
I learn something every time with you. I tell you, I feel so good.
All
All
right.
right, your third one. We got to move along.
My third one. Most consecutive games with a home run. This is a record that I just think is due to be broken. Like
8 currently.
it's 8 and it's 3 players.
Dale
Dale
Long,
Long.
Dale Long, King Griffey Jr., and Don Mattingly.
There you go. 1956 on Dale Long, 87 on Mattingly, and 93 on Griffey. And the reason I mention that is so it's been about 30 years since the last player did 8 in a row. And there are six guys with 7 in a row, and then there's a couple dozen with 6 in a row. So this is, I just think, the nature of the sport right now. The DH, the idea of going to a balanced schedule, and I think somebody could put it together.
Who's, if you had to pick one or two guys right now that would be in your mind the most likely to be able to break that record, who would you say?
I mean, to me, isn't it Judge or Alonso? You know, I think either one of them could hit a home run, you know, for a week and a half.
I think it would be a guy that might surprise, like a guy that has good power, like a Corey Seager or somebody like that. That's not a home run hitter in terms of like that's how you think of them, but can be sneaky good and go on really hot streaks.
Well, if you look at this list, I mean, you know, Mattingly was a power hitter, but was not, you know, was not a 500 home run type of power hitter.
Right. Not a Judge kind of power hitter or
not at all
type of power hitter.
Yeah.
And so those types of players, I think, see better pitches. If that makes, like, Judge isn't going to just get fastballs down the middle because the pitcher knows they're going to get, you know, put into the next zip code. So they're more careful with those kind of players. They might walk them a few times or whatever versus a Mattingly or high average Mattingly. Certainly his peak, he was the best player in baseball, you know, for a 5-year stretch. But
and I think it's going to be somebody who's going to fit in the ballpark well.
Right, sir. Mattingly fit in Yankee Stadium like peas and carrots, no doubt. Yep.
So,
and Seager loves playing here. And I'm not saying it'll be Seager. I'm thinking a guy like that sure. You just go, man, wow, he's got 6 in a row or what, you know, you're like, wow, he's homered in 6 home.
So, well, I will tell you one of the guys with 7 home runs who I had forgotten about, but you will remember, is Texas Ranger legend Kevin Mensch in 2006.
There you go.
Who I believe was known for the largest head. If I remember correctly, he had like an enormous head, but he hit in 7 in a row. So, you know, you never know.
Yeah, Dale Long, like really, like, you know.
Yeah, right.
So
that record has stood since '56. So I give that record a little bit more gravitas than I think people usually talk about it.
And that would be a big deal too.
I think so.
I remember when Griffey did it; it was a big deal. And his 9th game was watched by millions of people to see if he would hit 9 in a row.
I remember the Mattingly streak because it had been so many years since Dale Long.
Yeah.
And I remember that building because Mattingly, like you said, was the type of player you weren't sure, you know, but he just got into a groove that was unreal.
Was that 85 that he did that?
87.
87. Okay.
Yeah.
85 was his big year though, right? Like won the batting title or that.
It was that short peak before the back went.
Right. Okay. My last one.
What you got?
It's going to feel like it's a layup because it's like, well, yeah, that makes sense. But I think the single season home run record is in jeopardy.
Oh. Now, which are we going on, the 73?
Of course.
Okay.
Barry Bonds played Major League Baseball and he hit 73.
For the sake of listeners and viewers, you know.
Sure. I mean, you could argue the record still, well, if you took away all the juicers, Judge would be the home run king, wouldn't he?
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that legitimate, I've always been baffled how relatively small that record has felt, even at 60. I always felt like, wow, that doesn't feel like a ton of home runs. But, the reality is, if a guy hits 10 or 12 in a month, that's a lot, so even though they might play 28 games.
I think that would be huge if 73 were broken.
Right.
I think Judge, you saw some excitement, but I don't know that 64 or whatever the number is to break Judge. I don't think that would bring nearly the excitement to 74.
Well, Judge hit 62, right?
So 63.
Yeah.
I don't think would be nearly as exciting as 74.
I think it 100% correct. I agree with that. I think it was anybody getting 60 is a big deal.
Sure.
That's a benchmark for a season of absolute upper atmosphere greatness to get 60. Because you think about the few players that have done it, even the juicers, right? Who's hit the most 60 home run seasons in their career? Do you know?
The most 60 is Sosa, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah. Sammy Sosa, right?
Yeah. We get our hair done at the same place, so
I thought something looked familiar there, but that makes total sense now. I think what Sosa do it 3 times, I guess.
Yep, I believe so.
Anyway, I just think that's a record that, again, with the rules, and I think pitch clocks will start helping hitters stay in a rhythm and not get out of rhythm.
It's interesting that you and I each took a home run record.
Well, I took 2, actually. I took home runs by a pitcher and the single season home run mark. But that's certainly the most controversial one, right?
Well, I guess the hobby think tank takeaway is, are we predicting more home runs? Is that how the game is going, or is it just a couple anomalies?
I actually think the game is going back more traditional.
Interesting.
Again, if you had players like, well, I'm going to beat the shift. I'm just going to change my launch angle on my swing and knock the ball out of the park. Nobody can catch it when it's 10 rows deep in right field. So now it's, hey, when you have more traditional infield defensive lineups, you're like, I can be more of that slap hitter, Tony Gwynn type guy hitting to all fields. You don't have to hit the ball. It becomes less important to hit the ball out of the ballpark.
Yes.
Because your ultimate goal is score runs. The easiest way to do that is hit a home run, right? But at the same time, that's not an easy thing to do, which is why the single season home run record's only 73, which is still a lot of home runs, though.
I was about to say, Aaron Judge makes the field look very small. If he can stay healthy, any year he's healthy, there's a run at the record.
I always thought Stanton was going to be the guy that broke it.
Same problem.
But Stanton, it's like he's holding a matchstick. You look at him up there and it's just like, and Judge, same way, but it's like, holy crap. And then when he swings and he hits them so far and line drives that get out in, 1.3 seconds, and you're just like, good grief. But I always thought Stanton had the best shot of the current players to break the record, single season record. But I don't think that right now. I think it's Judge. I don't think Alonso can do it.
You don't think Alonso can do it?
I don't.
Is that just on contact?
Yes.
Or lack of? Okay.
Yes. His swing and miss rate is so bad that it's just like, and Judge, all power hitters strike out a lot. I'm not trying to,
and not to bring him up again, but if Ichiro wanted to, I think Ichiro could have done the consecutive games.
Right.
He had such sneaky power that people talked about.
Yeah.
And so Just another shout out to Ichiro.
There you go. So that's our list, guys. Records we think are likely to be broken, could be broken, however you want to describe it. We would love to hear feedback from you about what you think records could be broken. We certainly only had 6. There's an exhaustive list that I'm sure could be created by people given some time. We had an afternoon to think about it before we shot this episode, but I'm so glad we talked about it. It was fun to discuss, right?
And we're 12-year-old validated, so
yeah, we're good. So, Danny, any final thoughts?
No, I'm glad you brought it up. I might want to do a follow up in 6 months. This is at the end of the season. Maybe we'll see what we came close on.
Or say, maybe those won't. We might have been wrong on that one, but here's another one. But
right,
awesome. Well, thanks, Danny, for being on the Hobby Think Tank this week. We'll have another episode for you guys next week. Have a great one and keep collecting.